Imagine a war that lasted 335 years. Sounds brutal, right? Now imagine that same war having 0 battles, 0 bloodshed, and not a single casualty. This is the bizarre story of the war between the Netherlands and the Isles of Scilly, a conflict so forgotten historians weren't even sure it happened until the 1980s. To understand how this strange war began, we need to go back to the mid-1600s. England was in chaos. The English Civil War had torn the country apart. On one side you had the Royalists, loyal to King Charles I. On the other, the Parliamentarians, who wanted more control over the monarchy. By 1648, the Royalists were losing badly. The Parliamentarians controlled most of England, and the Royalist forces had been pushed to the edges of the kingdom. Many of them fled to a tiny group of islands off the southwest coast, the Isles of Scilly. Now here's where the Dutch come in. At this time, the Netherlands, or the Dutch Republic, was one of the most powerful naval forces in the world. They had an alliance with the Parliamentarians, and they relied heavily on trade routes through the English Channel. But there was a problem. Royalist privateers hiding out in the Isles of Scilly were attacking Dutch shipping. Dozens of merchant ships were being raided, and the Dutch were not happy. So, in March of 1651, Dutch Admiral Martin Tromp sailed to the Isles of Scilly with a fleet of warships. He demanded the Royalists pay reparations for the damage. The Royalists refused, and so Tromp declared war on the Isles of Scilly. That's it. Just a declaration. No shots were fired, no armies landed, and only a few weeks later, the Parliamentarians managed to force the Royalists to surrender anyway. The Dutch fleet sailed home, and everyone kind of forgot the whole thing ever happened. But here's the catch. While the fighting stopped, nobody actually signed a peace treaty. The paperwork was just never done. That meant, technically, on paper, the Netherlands and the Isles of Scilly were still at war. Not for a year. Not even for a decade, but for 335 years. Of course, nobody noticed. The Isles of Scilly didn't have their own government capable of declaring peace, and the Dutch, well, they were busy becoming a global trading empire. So the war sat in the background of history, completely forgotten. No battles, no casualties, just a very, very long silence. Fast forward all the way to 1986. A local historian named Roy Duncan was researching the Isles of Scilly when he stumbled upon references to this so-called war. Curious, he reached out to the Dutch embassy in London. The Dutch officials dug through their archives and realized, oh yeah, this thing technically never ended. So that April, the Dutch ambassador Rein Hoedekoper, sorry if I butchered that, traveled to the Isles of Scilly. There, in a small ceremony, the two sides officially signed a peace treaty. After 335 years, the world's longest war was finally over. It had ended without a single casualty. So, what do we make of this? The 335 years war is one of history's strangest quirks. It's a reminder that wars aren't always about battles and bloodshed. Sometimes, history just forgets to finish the paperwork. And sometimes, that forgotten paperwork survives for centuries, waiting for someone to stumble across it. The Isles of Scilly still celebrate the story today, proud to have hosted the world's longest and most peaceful conflict. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button for more forgotten history and strange facts from the past. And tell me in the comments, what's the weirdest piece of history you've ever heard of? Because who knows, it might just end up in a future video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more of the things you never knew you wanted to know.